Good evening, it being September 29th, 5 p.m. This is the Acushnet Board of Assessors. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Oh, motion open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please be kind enough to introduce yourself, starting with Ilby,
Assessors.
Sheila,
Sheila. Kelly Costa.
Mark
I
Severizio.
almost did it.
Matt Lopes.
Roll call in this town meeting. This meeting is being recorded for the town of Acushnet on YouTube. Minutes for approval. Minutes of August 25, 2021, open an executive session. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion. Approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
With that, I'll be turning it over to Kelly to address the open meeting agenda topics.
Okay, a little aside on the agenda, Nicole, my administrative assistant, she is out on maternity leave. She had a little girl on September 20th. All went well, and we're wishing her well. Hopefully she will be returning, hopefully by the end of this year. And that's why Sheila is here with us today and probably will be for the next couple of meetings moving forward.
Hoo-ah, Nicole.
With that, first item on the agenda is preparation for the FY22 certification. It's well underway and in process for the interim adjustments. This is not, again, a reclassification year or recertification year for the Department of Revenue. FY20 was, for everyone to remind everyone, and now we're on a 5-year schedule, so our next reval year will be FY 2025. The classification hearing, I've been speaking with the staff of the Board of Selectmen's office. They're hoping to anticipate it being held the 3rd or 4th week of October, realistically more the 4th week of October, where the Board of Assessors will need to give their opinion as to what the tax shift they recommend to be to the selectmen. At that point as well, new growth is also submitted to the Department of Revenue, so that will be underway in tandem at the same time. Thirdly, I attended a Board of Selectmen's meeting yesterday where Town Council Jeffrey Blake spoke of pilot programs. This was prompted due to the fact that the increase of solar arrays requests in the town of Acushnet have really skyrocketed for this calendar year. Currently, we have 4 taxable solar arrays where we have a projection of about 7 that are in the 7 to 8 in the permitting stage. The pilot was introduced, which is basically, it's an acronym that stands for payment in lieu of tax. These companies like to do projection as to what their expenses are going to be, and pilots work for them where they know exactly what their taxes are going to be over X amount of time. And of course, on the town side for benefit, you know exactly what type of revenue you'll be collecting from these sources. My opinion on the downside of it is if there are changes during the process of this contract, or say it's a 10-year projection and things are added to these solar arrays, we're not capturing that tax dollar. With that being said, it was basically just an introduction to the changes to the law that also occurred at the state level, where the portion of the law, Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 38H was actually revamped, and there's now a Clause 45 which takes over on how the assessors will be approaching values of these energy or solar entities. Also, wind turbines are involved in that as well, but we don't have that in this town. There's a lot to go with it. It's got a lot to dissect. As my opinion, when it comes to what the selectmen are going to ultimately use to approach, and what by the recommendation of the state is, ultimately what we get a projection of what the taxes would be, and they take that number and try to do a depreciation schedule, and then once we get to the end of a 10-year plan, they take that bottom number, or the projection of it, and do basically 10 equal installments, or 20, depending on the agreement that they make. What's happening lately in the town of Acushnet is the land that's being utilized for these solar arrays are not being sold to these companies but leased. So that brings in another facet of taxation where the property owners that are leasing this land will be subject to an increase of land value and land tax because of a change of use to the industrial use. And we are usually, historically, a split rate town, so that will have an impact on the tax dollar. With that being said, also, if a pilot is negotiated, that land value would not be part of the pilot as it is not assessed to the actual solar array company when it is a lease situation. And do you have any questions for me?
That is all determined by the selectmen, is that correct?
No, the Board of Assessors do intimately get involved when it comes to the value. So they have, the selectmen are educated as to what we're looking at for revenues to come in. Of course, we have to work in tandem with the companies that they are doing their due diligence and reporting their inventory, converters, battery storage, all those components that are subject to personal property, that they're being forthcoming and reporting correctly, and then we take that information, translate it into assessed value, which translates into a tax.
Does it depend on the size of it, like a 1 megawatt or 2 megawatt? Does that
It
depend?
does, and that's part of the legislation that changed. I believe, I can't answer definitively at this time, but definitely has to do with how much power is being generated, absolutely. There's formulas that are associated with that as well, but the meat and potatoes or the fundamentals of it are definitely the tangible personal property that are part of the projects. And
Once they're up and running, once they get approved and all that, there's nothing, very few changes that happen afterward, you know.
Just maybe they gotta cut the lawn like once.
Right, but as far as like you're saying with that pilot program, nothing really gets added to them unless
Well, it's
there's.
like a 20-year program, then they would spend X amount of dollars instead of spending a lot of money in the beginning and a little in the end, they spend
It's like
X
a-
amount.
Correct.
It's a fixed rate,
it is
basically.
uniformity. My brainstorm, my thought process is on Wing Lane, we did have an addition to the one that had its start on, I'm not sure which side, it's 88, it's the
Yeah.
even side.
Yeah.
They were up and running and they've currently added an addition.
Right.
So if they hypothetically were in a pilot, how would that addition be addressed?
Yeah, right, if we
I
we can always keep, put a caveat, if there's room for expansion, we'd have to make sure.
There
we
would
kept
be
that in.
addendums to the
Yeah,
contracts,
yeah.
but, you have to really be
sit and look
open-minded
at it.
and
Exactly, yeah,
look
yeah.
at it and be diligent.
Yeah.
I'm sure, and town council is part of that negotiation, and that is their areas of expertise. And so our next meeting date, we're recommending October 27th, which is the last Wednesday of the month at 5 p.m.
5 PM good for you? Will you be done with your
That's
classes then?
Just to throw out to the assessors, if, depending on how the schedule is going with the interim adjustments and my getting the information ready for classification, we may have to hold a short meeting to come together for the recommendation for the classification hearing if it's taking place before that.
Yeah.
But it would not be a full agenda meeting.
Yeah.
And it's dependent upon how the progression is for the month of October. Now we have matters in executive session.
With that, I'll make a motion to go into executive session and reconvene in open session once
Second.
matters are reviewed. Is there a motion?
You just made a motion.
Second roll call, I have to do a roll call vote. Lee?
Yep.
Matt?
Yes?
Mark? Yes. The board will now go into executive session and reconvene open session thereafterwards. Good evening. I will make a motion for the board to reconvene in open session. Is there a motion?
Second?
Roll call vote. Lee?
Yep.
Yes.
Matt? Mark? Yes. I make a motion for the board to accept and vote on matters discussed in executive session. The matters are as follows. Review of certificate of non-conversion on Chapter 61A, Map 7, Lot 17A, Map 7, Lot 17B. We have to make a motion on each of these, or just a full motion?
No, you can do it collectively.
Altogether, yeah.
Okay. To acceptance of FY 2022 personal exemptions, Clause 41C 2, Clause 17D 3, Clause 22E 2, Clause 22A 1, Clause 37A1, FY 2023, Chapter 61A 15, Chapter 61B 4, scheduling of potential fall town meeting. And items to sign, which we signed, monthly list of report, MV abatement, September 2021. Minutes, open executive session, 8/5/2021. Real estate personal exemptions, FY 2022. Chapter 61A, 61B applications, FY 2023. MV warrant 2021-4. County tax warrant, physical 2022. Is there,
I second that motion that you made, yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. With that, our next meeting will be October 27th at 5 PM right here, same channel, same place. Is there anything anybody would like to say to all the wonderful people out there in TV land?
Yes, I want
Stay
to
wonderful.
remind the chapter applicants that the deadline is this Friday, October 1st, to turn in the applications. We have followed up with those that haven't, but just a friendly reminder that that is the deadline.
And we'd like to do that. Sweet Sue used to call everybody now.
Sweet Sheila did it.
Sweet Sheila did it?
I did.
Oh, that's fantastic. Please, get him in by when you have to do it. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.